Hi guys, welcome. Dan here from the Magic Junk Drawer. So today's video, I had a request where somebody was questioning, how do you go about removing energy from a situation? So I'm going to explain as best I can. Sometimes I feel like I ramble a lot and I don't actually get to the point. I'm going to try not to do that. So what happens is, I'm going to use the example, my best friend from high school. I have been friends with her. We were 16 when we met, okay? So I've known her a very long time. And when we were in college, she went away to school, but not too far away. And when she came home for the summer, for the break, she worked at a craft store, and it was called Ben Franklin at the time. It's now AC Moore Crafts. But when she worked there, I don't know why, we found it really funny that she worked at Ben Franklin. I don't know. We used to just joke about it all the time. And it was a couple of years ago, and I talk to her all the time. She lives like 10 minutes away from me. I could pick up the phone right now and call her, and it's no big deal. I don't have any anxiety about calling her. I don't think she's not going to want to talk to me. She's my friend, okay? And if she doesn't respond, like I sent her a text message last night, she hasn't answered me yet. I don't think twice about it. She'll answer me when she gets a chance. It's no big deal. So what happened was, I was on my way to my voice lesson, which is in the town that she lives in. And on the way there, I stopped at the craft store. And while I was in the craft store, I was remembering how she worked there, and I was laughing about it. So what happens when you laugh? You raise your vibration. So what comes on? The Bee Gees, Jive Talking, that song comes on, and that makes me laugh because I remember us dancing. Like, we were always dancing to some kind of stupid music. And there was a time back in the late 90s where like the 70s were kind of coming back. So I remember us listening to the Bee Gees and, stupid dancing. So here I am in the craft store, remembering her working there. The stupid song comes on. I'm hysterically laughing. Nobody in the store knows why I'm laughing. I buy what I need and I go to leave. And as I walk out the door, I'm coming out the door, heading towards the parking lot. She's coming from the parking lot, heading towards the store. And she wasn't going into the store. She was going next door to the pet shop. But, and I was laughing on my way out because I was laughing while I was in there. So she's like, oh man, she's like, what are you doing here? And and it was funny because I had been making videos that day. So I had a lot of makeup on, and she was like, oh man, you did your makeup and you got this contoured and this and that. And I was laughing. I was like, yeah, I was making videos. Like, oh, mom, I made my voice lesson. And I said to her, I was just thinking about you and how you used to work here. And we were laughing. So anyhow, she went to the pet store, went to my voice lesson, end of story. But what happened here was, I had given a lot of energy to her and our relationship and how funny it was. And in that moment, her and I were on the same wavelength, and I called her into my reality. That's how the law of attraction works. It's very easy to do it with somebody that you don't have any doubts with because there's no reason to doubt. I texted another one of my friends yesterday, and he hasn't responded. Another one that I'm not thinking twice about. When he gets a chance, he'll answer me. I know he will. It's no big deal. So the point is that in order to raise your vibration, you have to do something that you literally, it gives you bliss, joy, makes you laugh, something that makes you feel really good. So whether it's watching a really funny movie or going someplace and having an experience like that, or meeting up with an old friend and talking about, like me and her, she comes to my yoga classes on Monday nights. We were talking about, I'm cleaning out my house and I came across pictures of us from the 90s. And some of the outfits that, I had on these lilac bell bottoms. They were lilac, but they were plaid with baby blue. And I had baby blue patent leather shoes on. And I'm like, what am I wearing? So, like, talking about, and she's like, I remember those pants. I love those pants. So, like, talking about these things, making ourselves laugh raises your vibration. So, it's easier to call in something that you want when your vibration is high. So, if you wanted to pull your energy back from a situation because the energy isn't feeling like that, right? So, if you're in a situation where you're like, should I call him? I don't know if he's going to answer. Maybe he doesn't want to talk to me. Maybe he's with somebody else. All of these doubts now are going out into the universe. So what you manifest at that moment is going to be very different from what I manifested with my friend, because I came from a much different place. You have to change that energy. Now, what happens is if you're just in a negative state and you feel like this person has screwed you over and you can't get past it, then the best thing to do is try to get to a neutral place. So when I say remove yourself from the situation and take the energy away, what I mean is to stop talking about it, stop looking, stop searching. So if you didn't want to give somebody any energy, what happens is they're going to notice that. And it's not something conscious that happens. It's something that intuitively they feel. And then that's when they reach out to you. So here's an example. The guy that I was dating that took off to Europe, there was a point in our relationship where, and it was always off and on and crazy, it was never normal. There was a point where, partially to get back at him, probably mostly to get back at him, I started seeing somebody else. I didn't even really like this person, but whatever, he was okay for the time being. And neither of these two guys did I see that often. I just didn't see them that often. I don't know if I saw them once a month, maybe, if that. Like, I just didn't see them that often. So every time, I'm not even kidding you, every time I was with guy number 2, the first guy texted me or called me. Every time, it never failed. And if it didn't happen while I was with them in that moment, it happened the day after. Or, excuse me, later on that day. It never failed. If I was with guy number 2, guy number 1 reached out to me. It always happened. Because my energy was removed and I was preoccupied, and he, for whatever reason, could sense that, consciously not knowing, but just having the desire to reach out. So when somebody feels, and they can feel that energy of you sitting around waiting, talking about them, pining over them, checking your phone to see if they've called, checking their social media, they can feel your presence there. So once you remove all of that and you stop talking about them and giving them energy, any energy, that's when they show up. And it's the same thing with the third party. Now, I don't care how the third party fits in. If it's a third party where, like, my guy went to Europe with the ex-girlfriend, you ignore that third party and they go away. So in other words, I didn't go on Facebook and stalk out her page. I didn't look her up on Instagram. I did nothing. I pretended she didn't exist. I let him go. I let him figure it out. And then he came back. And then that was it. So what happens is nobody is going to give you what you want by you begging them. So you can try to convince them that you're better for them and you love them and you want them and you cherish them and you'll be good to them. And they don't care, because that doesn't work. All of that is putting out a very needy vibe, and all of that repels people. It just does. Nobody ever says, well, I was going to divorce her and leave her for the girl next door, but she really told me that she loved me and she would be good to me, so I stayed. Like, it just doesn't work. So the best thing that you can do is leave the person alone and remove yourself from the situation and stop talking about them so much, because the talking about them, right, it puts it out into the universe. So if you start talking about it with your best friend, and now your best friend's going to chime in with something like, you could do better than him and he's no good, and why would you stand for that, and I don't want to hear it anymore. This is all negative. So the more negativity that's going to go out, the more that's going to come back. So what you want to do is you want to ignore the situation. If this person has told you, I don't want to be with you, don't get upset by it. You just ignore it. Let them go. Let them do what they're going to do. Cut the energy. Focus on something else. Anything that makes you happy will raise your vibration. Sitting in that position of crying, being needy, feeling victimized, longing, feeling desperate is going to keep you desperate. Nobody is coming back to that. Nobody is. I've never in my life ever seen it happen. And I'm not saying I never did it. I'll get to another story. So, with all that being said, and it's not one person. People, every time I make a video, people are like, well, I guess that was me. No, it's not one person. There are a lot of people that are in this situation. People that I've worked with candles, and people that I've worked with banishing spells. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are experiencing it. And it's really hard to not feel like shit when you feel like shit. But you have to change the energy of the situation. It's like they say, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. You can't keep doing the same thing because it's not working. You have to change the energy. And there's also something to changing the energy of your day and your week, going different places, trying different things, eating different foods. Just changing things up tends to break up the stale energy that surrounds you. So my suggestion would be for anyone that is either waiting to hear from somebody or waiting for someone to come back or somebody who's not getting what they want, the idea is to ignore the situation. So let them tell you that they don't want to be with you. Fine. Don't be with me. Go be with X, Y, and Z, and let's see how that works out. Let them go, pull back your energy, and they will be back. It works every time. You just have to kind of get into that right headset. So this is going back, I don't know, almost 20 years ago. And I would never, ever do this now. But I was a lot younger then. And I had reconnected with an old friend. And I thought that we were kind of on the same page. I thought that like we were heading towards like hanging out and like dating or seeing each other. Because he was kind of doing all the, like he was like calling me 5 times a day and he always wanted to see me. I thought this is where it was headed. Maybe I was wrong, or maybe I bamboozled myself. So here's how this went. The reason why we connected was because we were both into music. And I really wanted to play music. That's where I wanted to go. So he had a band, or he had just put out a CD. He was doing well. And I wanted to be part of that. And that's how we hooked up. So, of course, what happened? Me, with all of my insecurities, never thinking that I was good enough to be anything, entered this situation. And nothing happened. And then all of a sudden, the third party showed up. So third party comes in, and at first I didn't think anything of it. She had a boyfriend, she was this, she was that. And then it wasn't very long before he started referring to her in 2 different ways. So sometimes he would refer to her by her name, and other times he would refer to her as his bandmate or some bullshit. And I've come to figure out that these 2 people were the same person. And it's like he didn't want me to know, but I don't know, he was going to hook up with her or he was going to do something. Now, when I tell you, when this girl entered the picture, I was like, well, she has a boyfriend and she's kind of looks like a mess and whatever. And then all of a sudden that fear manifests really fast. He was going somewhere with her, like a couple of hours away, something he had to do with the band. Of course, I wasn't good enough to be in the band, but she was. And let me tell you something. I went and saw a lot of their performances, and I personally think that she made him look like a fool. But no one wants to hear that. So I kept my mouth shut. But even my friends were like, what is going on up there? She's making an asshole out of him. Okay. So, so what happens is, as soon as he tells me that they're going on this ride that's going to take 3 hours there and they're doing something, immediately I get this fear. And that fear goes out into the universe. And what happens? It manifests. And then he comes back at me a couple of days later and he's referring to her as his girlfriend. And I was like so fucking upset because I really thought that he and I were going there. And then all of a sudden this one comes in. However, I did this all to myself. I was insecure. I didn't think I was good enough for the part. I called in a third party. I was afraid. It went out into the universe and bam, this is what we got. So, of course, what happens? She's a fucking disaster and she makes him absolutely crazy for months. So I was dealing with him crying to me over this lunatic, and I was trying to be nice and supportive, and I was always there, and I was doing crazy things for him, like driving in and out of New York City and picking him up and taking him places. Meanwhile, I'm working 2 jobs, and on my one night off, I'm spending it driving him around. I mean, just craziness. But I was going to be the X, Y, and Z, and he was no, because at the end of the day, what happened? Well, he didn't end up with her. He didn't end up with me either. And I just put myself in a position where I was always the victim. So this is what happened. Eventually, she fucked off. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but he got into doing photography. I don't even fucking believe it. So he got into doing photography, and he used to always tell me, that he had all of these photo shoots with these models. So now you say model to me, and in my head, I'm seeing like Cindy Crawford, what's that one? Kate Moss, Naomi Campbell. Like, these are the people that are coming into my mind. So I'm thinking, oh my God, he's with all these beautiful women. And then he shows me the pictures. And not that they were ugly, but they were just your average run-of-the-mill everyday person. They were nothing. There was no Cindy Crawford there in the bunch, okay? Let me put it to you that way. So here I am thinking, now I have red hair, and all of the pictures that he used were either brunettes or blondes. So I make a suggestion because I really wanted to be in a photo shoot. I wanted him to take pictures of me. I really liked him, and I wanted to be in entertainment in some way. And I said to him, I'm like, well, you have a lot of blondes and you have a lot of brunettes, but you don't have any redheads. And he says to me, I'm the artist. I pick the model, and you are just not model type. That's what he said to me. That is what he said to me. Those were his words. Now, meanwhile, I used to take off of work and go with him to these fairs where he would sell his photos. And I was there with him one night. I took the day off of work, so I didn't get paid for it. And he made like a couple of $1,000 that day I was there. And the whole day he kept, like, everything I said was wrong. Like, if I said A, B, and C, I should have said X, Y, and Z. If I stood here, I was in the way. If I stood there, I was in the way. If I sat down, I was lazy. I never did the right thing. And looking back, I'm like, why the fuck did I put up with that? But I did for a long time. And I felt really bad. And when I called my friend and told her what he said to me, she was like... She was beside herself. She's like, I've seen those fucking pictures, and he's not dealing with supermodels. There's no reason why he couldn't use you as a subject. But anyway, I put myself in situations where I allowed myself to be victimized by it. And then what happened was I called my friend and talked to her about it. And then we spoke about it for hours and days and weeks. And then eventually he and I had a big, huge fight, and we never spoke again for a long time. And then I think I wound up calling him like months later just to see what was going on, and found out that he had married somebody willy-nilly out of the blue. And looking back on the whole situation, I thank my lucky stars I was never with him. But at the time, when I was living it, it was much different. So my point is that If you can continuously put yourself in the role of being the victim and being victimized by the situation, and it doesn't matter what you look like, it doesn't matter what color your hair is, it doesn't matter how tall you are or how fat you are, nothing matters, because what only matters is what you're thinking about inside you and what you're putting out into the universe, because that's what's going to get reflected back. So these were hard lessons that I learned, but I didn't learn them until years later. I just always thought, well, I have really bad luck, or I just pick people that don't see my worth, or I just pick people that, are mean. But it was with the photographer guy that I used to say, I had said to him a couple of times, yeah, but I would be good to you, and I have a house and we could live here. And he was like, none of that matters. I don't care about any of that. He didn't care about any of that. What he cared about was his drama and his bullshit and whatever was going on there. And I wasn't dramatic. I wasn't doing any of that. I wasn't pulling the bullshit that he was dealing with that other girl, and he didn't end up with her anyway. So who wants to live like that? So that's my point. When somebody is telling you that they want to be with somebody else, let them go and do it, and let's see what happens, because I've seen this happen so many times. And this guy would call me up crying. Oh, that's what happened. He called me up crying all the time, upset about whatever was going on. And wherever I was, I dropped what I was doing. I mean, I was in Rite Aid once. I'm on the phone with him. We were late for my birthday dinner because he was crying over her or some such nonsense, or he was at some kind of therapist craziness. But then what happened was I had an issue with my ex-boyfriend at the time, and I called him, and he wouldn't return my phone call. Like, I don't know if I left him 5 or 6 messages. And when I was like, you could have answered me, I really needed someone to talk to. He was like, well, I was out, and it was the first time that I was having a good time in months, and I don't feel bad. I don't have to be there for you when you need me. Just because you're there for me doesn't mean I have to do that for you. That's your thing. And I was young, so I put up with this shit. But that was the end of it. Then I was like, fuck you. Because you know something? I don't need somebody to treat me like this. Go cry over your lunatics that you pick up. These crazy people that just want to live off you and don't want to work and make up crazy stories that are not true, because that's what was going on. This girl used to lie to him and tell him the craziest stories and make him feel really bad for her. And he thought that, he had to save her from something. It was a disaster. But at the end of the day, what happened? It all comes out in the wash. And sooner or later, everybody figures out what's going on. So my point, once again, is, see, for me, what I should have done when this first happened is I should have said, okay, if that's what you want, fine. And I should never have spoken to him again. I should have stopped taking his calls and gone on to something else. It would have changed the whole energy of the situation. But instead, I was sort of hanging around, waiting for the moment that this was going to explode on him. And I knew it was going to. I knew it was going to. Anybody would have known if you would have been in this situation and been dealing with what I was dealing with. There's no psychic that needs to be there. It was just craziness. So when I say remove yourself from the situation and pull back on the energy, stop talking, stop thinking, do not stalk. First of all, stalking doesn't tell you anything anyway. People are only going to put up on Facebook what they want you to believe, not what's really going on. And that's a whole load of bullshit. And if you're physically driving past somebody's house, that doesn't tell you anything either, because my car has been out in my parking space, but somebody else came to pick me up and I left with them. So that doesn't tell you anything. The only thing it does is that you see something and then your brain writes a story. So it's like, oh, his car is home, he's home, there's no other cars here, there's nobody here. None of that is true. You don't know what's going on inside that house because a car is there or because a car is not there. So, and then writing all these stories and putting that out into the universe just makes things messier. So the best thing you can do is nothing. Nothing. Pull yourself back from the situation. Find something to do that really brings you joy and happiness, because that's going to raise your vibration. Okay, so this video is longer than I wanted it to be, but I hope that I made some clarity. I hope that I got my point across a little bit, because like I said, it's not just one person that's saying these things. I'm getting it from a number of people that are looking for help with, you know, whoever it is that they want to be with and it's not working out for them. And like I said, like sensing that kind of desperation and that longing and that wanting, putting that out into the universe is just going to create more of that. It's not going to bring the person back. So you have to find a way to change that energy, because the vibrations are going out there. You know, it's like, and if you don't believe this stuff, right? Dogs smell fear, right? Animals smell fear. If you're afraid of a dog, he will know it. So you got to believe that somehow there is a way that you can sense our emotions that are going out into the universe. You can sense fear. I mean, sometimes it's even physical. You can see it. You can see somebody sweating, or their palms get sweaty, you know, if you're nervous about something. So you have to find a way to let go of that and change it, because that is not helping your situation. It's only going to make it worse. Okay, I hope that helps. And I'm going to be going live soon, so I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.